Well, welcome to Martini time, the happy time of the day. I feel like a dragon today. What do you think? Do you feel like a dragon? You want to ride the dragon? The dragon, is a metaphor or symbol of the Shakti, the creative energy of God. And you either ride it or it eats you. So, the topic of today's talk is the backyard goddess. So the day started out just like any other day. And around 11 o'clock, I think, a couple of fellows came to the door and wanted to know if they could do a metal detective search of the yards to see what they could find, and said that you'll get to keep whatever we find if you want it. And I said, sure, because this house goes back to 1903. It's an old house, My wife has lived here since she grew up here. Her parents bought the house in 1943. And, excuse me a minute. And I have a picture here of, this picture here. Of course, this is backwards. It says, no place like home, but this was 1945. And my wife when she was a little girl, and then I photoshopped her in here. And that was the house I lived in back then. Isn't that interesting? And, excuse me, put a hand over the speaker here. So anyway, they were running around with their metal detectors. They were two nice fellows. And so they came up and said, well, here's what we found. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but this comes off. It was a brooch. Let's see. Can you see? It's the brooch of a goddess, a Greek goddess. There it is. You can see that. And I said, oh, you found a backyard goddess. And I have a lot of goddesses here. I wear one around my neck. This is the blood jade, and it's got a picture of Kuan Yin in it. And Kuan Yin is the goddess of compassion. All of these goddesses are goddesses of compassion, the heart. And Kuan Yin is the one in China. And here she is here, you see. But then, if you go to the West, here she is here, you see. Or if you go to India, well, let me see. I don't have one of India here. This is, anyway, you get the idea. That she has the goddess of 1,000 faces. She appears whoever calls her. So the question is, did I call her? Why did, this is, it's a very peculiar thing, because here in the West, we don't believe in the power of our own mind. We believe that the power is in our technology, our machines, like in Avatar. The power is in the robots and the machines. There's the muscle, you see. But you and I, we have no power. Our minds are not powerful. We can't really do anything with them. We can imagine things, but that's just fantasy, you see. So, but is that true? What is creative imagination? What is creative imagination? Now creative means that it's Shakti. In other words, the Shakti is the creative energy of God. Now in India, this is perfectly clear. She rides the tiger. She's represented by the cobra. And in yoga, if you go practice yoga, the Kundalini is Shakti. She rises up the spine and opens up in the dome of the head, you see. And it's arousing the Kundalini. That's so much of yoga is. It's awakening the Shakti, awakening the Kundalini, the creative power, awakening the creative power of the cosmos in you. Think about that. Now, this is like harnessing atomic power. It's not just fantasy stuff. It's not just paper mache or something like that. No. This is creative energy. So you have to be able to ride it, or it will ride you. And anybody who has a spiritual awakening taps into that power, and they know something awesome has occurred, and there's the feeling that you can't, that you want to ride it, but how do you do that? It's like surfing. How do you ride that wave, the big wave? How do you ride that wave, you see, without getting wiped out? So this whole idea of arousing the Shakti, and once she's aroused, how do you ride the tiger so it doesn't turn and eat you? Because if you have one little speck of ego, the ego will take credit for the Shakti and say, oh, look how great I am, you see. And that's when it turns and eats you. That's when it turns in. You know, the movie The Life of Pi was all about that. How do you ride that tiger? The boy in the boat was all about that. All about that. So anyway, so here's the backyard goddess. Now, so the question is, why is this just fantasy? Or am I really attracting the goddess? Can we really attract God through our creative imagination? Can we really do that? I've been take about the lightning, when there's a cloud building of electrical current in the sky, dark clouds. The current also builds on the ground. And when it reaches a saturation point on the ground and in the air, it meets like the finger of God and man touching in the Sistine Chapel. Bam! Bam! They meet. The cosmic power of the sky and the power of the earth meet in you. You see, can you stand that power? Can your little circuit, in our houses we have a circuit, electrical system, and it's all fused or with circuit breakers. But if a lightning strike hits, pop, it can blow all the circuits, you see, because the fuses aren't big enough. So this whole practice, you see, is basically building your fuses or your circuit breakers up gradually so you can handle more and more Shakti. Make it work for you. Make it creative. It's the power of love, compassion, art, work, whatever you want to do. It's power. It's like getting, you got a garden hose and you turn that hose on and you can water anything you want with it, you see. But you have to be careful with it. If you don't know how to handle it, you could drown everything, you see. In the Sorcerer's Apprentice, remember that little Disney thing? Where the little apprentice figured out the formula to get the brooms to bring water, but then he didn't know how to turn it off. So they just kept bringing water until he flooded everything, you see. So maybe that's a metaphor of our technology. We've turned the technology on, but we don't know how to direct it. Oh yeah, it makes atom bombs. All right. What are you going to do with that, you see? Anyway, the backyard goddess, basically, is a metaphorical tale, but it really points to something else that I'm working with and trying to share with you, in that if you imagine, these are symbols. All this stuff here, all these things here, I'm going to pick this up here, all this stuff here, got everybody here. Shiva, I got God, I got the Jesus, I got everybody here. And it's integrative. Nobody's left out. So these are basically like, to me, they are little symbols of that meeting place between the lightning and the ground, you see. So my creative imagination, my yearning is to attract that Shakti. It's like if you thirst for the river will come. But if you don't thirst for the river won't even exist. So if you thirst for Shakti, if you thirst for God, it comes to you in the form of a backyard goddess. Or it comes to you in the form. Now this one here, I know I've told this story. This is my landfill Buddha. I have a little mala around it with a picture of Swami Satyananda. This is about my landfill Buddha. See how nicely detailed it is? Oh, look at that. So I was going to the landfill once with a pickup truck load of stuff, and I stopped there to get it weighed. And there was this little Buddha, all dirty, sitting in the window where the landfill threshold guard, the threshold guard looked like that. A little fat little guy, looked like Ganesh. And he was guarding this Buddha. And so he had found it. I said, I'd like to buy that Buddha. And he said, well, I don't know, what do you want? I said, $20. And he said, no, I don't think so. So I went inside, and there were some fellas in there sitting around a stove, and one of them said, what's a Buddha? And the other one says, how much is a Buddha worth? And I said, okay, I'll give you $40. And the guy said, yes, here it is. So I took it home. Oh, this is such a treasure. I washed him off. And I was just amazed at the detail. You see, just the detail. And I thought, oh, maybe it's ivory, but it's not ivory. I forgot the name of it, but it's very heavy, you see. And so he's my landfill Buddha. And so this, so I think, when you yearn, and all these Buddha, Shiva, Ganesh, Virgin Mary, Jesus, all of these things you see are really just symbols for the divine meeting of the lightning in the ground. Pow! You see that point. That. So if you desire that, if that is your heart's yearning, you will attract the lightning strikes. In symbols, things will happen. Synchronicity, it's called. Synchronicity. There will be a connections between you and the external world that seem, oh, it's a miracle. But no, it's not. You're creating it in your creative imagination. You see, God doesn't exist unless we yearn for God. So God doesn't exist unless we call upon God. So God is the interaction. Whoops, I can't even point. God is the interaction between the universal and the particular, which is you. When they touch, that's God, you see. But there has to be the yearning of the ground for the lightning strike. Pow, you see, for it to happen. And it happens in little things that happen to you, little signs, little synchronicity, little Buddhas in the landfill, or goddesses buried in the backyard. So another thing that interested me about finding a goddess in the backyard was that when I was writing for the Courier Record back in 1987, I was impressed at the time by a book called Diamonds in Your Backyard. Very classic book, it's about finding diamonds in your backyard. And so I was suddenly given a job to write for the Courier Record in Blackstone, and this was my backyard. So I was going to find diamonds. And my stories were diamonds. Little jewels about people, about their goodness, you see. Diamonds in our backyard. And that's really been kind of like a theme in my practice, in that the diamonds you're looking for are in your backyard. They are in your everyday mind. But if we think this is boring, it's nothing, I need to go to California, I need to get a new job, I need to live in Richmond, I got to go somewhere else, there's nothing here, you see, then the river won't come to you. But if you see that everything is full of the potential for God, then God will appear in your backyard. But if you don't believe He's there, you don't thirst for Him there, He won't show up because He won't even exist for you. You see, so this whole day, the goddesses in the backyard, they're all underneath the surface. Squirrels know about this. They bury the nut is their goddess. They bury it till the lawn is buried with squirrel things, So our backyards, now this is a metaphor for your everyday place where you live, your family, your town, your job, you see, all of these places are your backyard, and there are goddesses buried underneath the surface, but we don't see it. It just becomes just everyday world, and we're thinking about the media, where our minds are gone. Our minds are in tomorrow or yesterday. So the goddess does not exist in yesterday or tomorrow. The goddess is under your feet. But you can't see her. You can't find her. She won't appear. She won't come to the surface unless you turn. Unless you turn and say, I want you. I want you to appear. I believe you are here. I invite you to appear. I don't know where you are. I don't know how you do it, but I invite that. You see, I ask for that because there's a trust created there. You see, I trust you are here. Even though I can't see you, I trust the goddess or God is beneath the surface of my feet, ready to spring up, you see, ready to pop up, you see, and surprise me. That's what God's all about, surprise. Revelation, insight. When you get an insight, where do you think that's coming from? When you get an insight, that's like the lightning and the ground hitting together, or the Sistine Chapel. Bam, I got an insight. An insight is a complete idea that comes fully wrapped, like the totality in one idea. And you see it's called a gestalt. You see everything at once in one flash. Bam! It's like when the flash bulb goes off in a dark room. Bam! You see the whole room. Then it's go. You see. Insight. Bam! That's the goddess. That is too, you see. So, that's why I like this, my little dragon thing here. If you don't ride the goddess, in other words, creative energy of God doesn't go away. It does not exist. It's going all the time. This whole reality here is the creative energy of God. But here's the thing. If we don't want to ride the dragon, then the dragon creates our world as a dragon eating its tail. It's called a tape loop. We get into a tape loop or a vicious circle or a Groundhog Day that just repeats itself. And we become exhausted and we become depleted, depressed, full of anxiety, you see. Because we're not creating our world. We're just living in a world that we think is creating us. We have forsaken our creativity, our creative imagination. You see, so that needs to be awakened. That needs to be motivated, awakened, triggered. And when it's awake, then all you have to do is ride it and follow its lead. Just like in Avatar, where they had to learn how to ride the dragons. And in the tales of the Arthurian romances, when the Grail Knight, Sir Percival, sets out to find the Grail, he drops the reins of his horse and lets the horse lead the way to the Grail castle, which means he drops his ego, trying to control everything, and lets his heart, his nature, lead the way. So our nature is the dragon. Our nature is the creative energy of God. But unless we acknowledge that it's there, see, our reality map in the West doesn't acknowledge that it's there. Our creativity is in our technology, in our institutions. The individuals have nothing. See, everything is externalized. But this creative way to live flips the world. So now you are the creative center of the world. You are the creator of your world, you see. Take charge of it, you see. Ride the dragon. Because you are the dragon and the dragon is you. If you don't see that, well then the dragon will eat you. Thanks for dropping in.